looking at your house burning to the ground, I can guarantee you that.
All right. Hey, Daniela. Thank you so much for being on the Elite Agent Show Talk. I'm so happy to have you on here because, I heard you talk at the Insurance Ghost Conference, and we got to sit next to each other during the event too. So yeah, you have a great story, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. But yeah, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's a very, very hot day here in Houston, but at least we have some good AC inside, so we're good.
Yeah, that's the good thing about being in insurance, right?
Exactly.
So you have two locations, right? And you said that's the near one. It looks like a beautiful corner office there.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, this is my second location. I opened this office in, and actually it was an internal acquisition. So I kind of took over what the previous agent had. And this was just this last December, 2021.
Yeah, it's a big acquisition, and that's what your experience you went. That experience I kind of wanted you to talk about, which is something that we could all learn from, I feel like, the courage it took. But before we get there, just share with us, just from the early days of what you were doing before insurance and how you even got into insurance business.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing insurance when I was about 18 years old. It was kind of my first job out of high school, and I just randomly passed by a farmer's office. I actually dropped off my resume, in person like we did back in the day, dropped off my resume in several offices, and they called me right away, and I started working for an agent. And so I did that for about a couple of years. Then there was a position available at the district office. And so I worked with a Houston district manager um, for about 5 to 6 years,
Hmm.
almost. And so I did that. And, I know that that was one of the things that we were talking about that was so strange, that I had already quite a bit of experience before I opened my office, but I was so nervous when I was signing that, AAA agreement with farmers to go career. So it was just kind of one of those experiences. But that was about 12 years ago when I opened that office. It's been phenomenal. I mean, I don't have, of course, there's a lot of hard work, like always, but I don't see myself doing anything else. Not really.
Yeah, now look at you. I mean, combined 14,000 policies. Unbelievable. President councils four times, MDRT two, Toppers Club 12 times. But yeah, you started really young, so that's and then so you were producer and then at the district office for a few years. So you had a lot of experience in the insurance business. So what was it that made you decide to take the leap? Because it's still a big difference to becoming now agency owner.
Yeah, I mean, it was always something that I wanted to do. And so I knew a lot of other agents in the district, and I got the opportunity to work with a lot of, really good agents, their staff, and just a lot of agents in general. And so I always thought that it was, a great thing, but almost something even, in a sense, out of my league.
Mm.
I was 24 when I opened the agency, and I just thought, like, maybe maybe I'm just aspiring to high, too high, um, because I was, I just kind of, the way that I was brought up has always been a more humble and traditional environment. And so, but I said one day, and I had some really good mentors as well. And they're like, hey, we did it. If we can do it, you can do it. And so, I've kind of then changed my mentality a little bit to say, you know what, you're right. If Dan Kitajima can do it, why can't I do it? uh, so it kind of, I changed my mindset a lot. But I'm the type of person that I kind of jump in and I give it everything. I'm not going to be doing this for a few hours part time or letting myself get distracted with anything. I like to just go and do it, and I'm going to put my whole heart and soul into it. And I think that that's what has made a big difference, because it's not, I'm not stretching myself thin trying to do several different businesses at the same time, or trying to do, it's just, I want to do this great, and I'm going to give it 100% of what I have. So I know that, it was funny though, because when I was signing that contract, I remember my district manager, I actually had an accident, but I was already scheduled to sign my career contract. I was in a bad car accident and I
Mm.
broke my clavicle, and so I
Oh
couldn't
wow.
go in. So my district manager was like, "Okay, well maybe I can go visit you and we can just sign." He's like, "Did you break your right hand or your left hand?" And I was like, "It's my left hand." He's like, "Can you sign?" I'm like, "I can still sign." He's like, "Okay." So he went, and I remember he came over. I was signing, broken in my bed, and I'm thinking, I'm hesitating a little bit. And he's like, "Why are you hesitating?" I said, "I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't, what if I fail? What if I fail and, I'm going to be the laughing stock?" And he's like, "Of who?" I'm like, everyone. I don't know. Everyone, no one, it's just scary. It's so scary to just take that leap. And he's like, "You know what? It doesn't matter. You can always go back to having a regular job, and you're going to
Mm.
be okay with that. And you can always go find another job, but you're not always going to have this opportunity. So, take advantage of it." And I said, "You know what? You're right. I'm going to do that." He's one of my great mentors, actually. And so that's kind of how I started off. And then I kind of kicked it in high gear. I already was interviewing, so I had my first employee on day one.
Oh wow.
Um, and
That's rare
then
back in the days.
it was very rare back in the
Mm-hmm.
days, but I started with a retail location day one, which was also rare,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember that for the most part, a lot of agents would start off like at the district
District office,
office
yeah.
or home or something like that. No, I used up whatever savings I had to go straight into a retail location. Um, I was paying all of my subsidy money for salary,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have any money if I didn't sell.
Mm.
And so there was no other thing for me to do but sell, because otherwise I wouldn't have a check, because the subsidy money that I was using was to pay my staff. So that's kind of how I did it. I know I've had several agents approach me like, "Well, how do you do it? There's not a lot of income in the beginning." Well, I did it because I had no doubts in me. I had to get on that phone. I was out and about every day, and I knew that I just couldn't sit behind a desk and expect for things to happen if I didn't make them happen. And so
Mm.
I did that. Luckily, in about on the sixth or seventh month, I hired my second staff member.
Wow.
Um,
Were you making money?
and I'm sorry.
Were you making money at that time or not yet?
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely making money, but I had all of my staff. I mean, we didn't have a lot of service, obviously, because I was a scratch agent, so I didn't have any policies in force. But so our whole job was just to be marketing and selling. And
Right.
we, out of the 8 hours a day that we had available to us, or at least to them, because I would work even longer hours than that. Of course, in the beginning, you have to. But my staff and I mean, we would take turns where we were going out to market. We were doing mail outs. We were on the phone. We were just doing everything and anything that we could do. We would get on Facebook and start calling our own friends. And then we would ask for a lot of referrals, a ton of referrals. I feel very lucky because I feel that a very good percentage of my book of business is from referral business, and it's
Mm-hmm.
clients that have been with me for a long, long time, and they stay with me, thick and thin. They stay with me for a very long time. And if they go, they always come back. They always say, if we're gonna have to go, but we're gonna be back in 6 months, and they do. Um, So I've
Mm.
been very fortunate in that sense that I've had, a lot of my friends, my family, my staff members, they've all contributed, and it's just been a big referral sort of built book of business.
Yeah, which is the best. Highest
Yes.
closing ratio, highest retention. But yeah, I could really relate to you because early on in my career too, that's really all we focused on is just sales, sales, sales. Do you kind of miss those days looking back at it? Was it hard while you're going through it? Was it fun? What would you say your experience was those first, we were survival mode?
So I'm a salesperson and I love to sell. I love to sell, and more so than I love to do, for example, now HR. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, I do HR now because I must, but I just well, and actually now I did hire someone to do the HR because I
Oh
don't
yeah.
enjoy it as much. I like to be doing sales. I love to sell life insurance. I like to do the FFS, and just being in front of people. And so that's always been big for me. And I think that the staff that I had then, they've always, they like that piece too. So they were, I just had them going. So the days really didn't seem long. They kind of seemed exciting, and we were doing a lot of networking and getting to know a lot of people, and so that's kind of exciting too. And there was money, and I did have to wait for my first renewals to kick in so that I can hire my second person. That's why I waited for the 6th or 7th month.
Mm-hmm.
But once that happened, I was still selling for me from my
Mm-hmm.
commissions, and then I still had subsidy, and then I had the second person. So as soon as my next renewals kicked in upon a year, then I was in the position to say, okay, well, maybe I can hire at least another part timer. Um, and kind of what my motto is, you want to hire at least one person every year so that you can continue to have that growth that is expected. Because if you stay at the same amount of staff, that's going to be the same amount of production. I mean, you can get
Mm-hmm.
them to level up, but then once they level up, there's only so much that, a human brain and body can physically do in a certain allotted time span. So my thing is, if you want to continue growing, you have to also continue growing your staff members. Um, and again, which is a completely kind of different mindset because in the beginning, I was always thinking myself as a small business owner. And I would think, oh, I'm always going to have maybe 2 or 3 staff members working for me. Now I have 14, and I'm hoping by the end of the year I can be at 20. And then hopefully by the end of next year, I can have 30.
Oh wow.
So the small business mentality is slowly kind of transitioning into, why am I limiting the opportunities for them, for my staff, and for myself as well? Why am I limiting anyone? I mean, really, the sky's the limit, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. Once you get the renewals, then you use that on hiring people. And then once have more renewals next year. And now that you're 12 years in as an agency owner, you kept that philosophy going. And now, you have more than one a year at
A year.
14.
Hmm.
So right now you have 14, and yeah, you have some big goals ahead of you. But yeah, going back still, what are some challenges you faced, and any parts of your journey in the first 5 years that felt was difficult that you had to kind of change, or any advice for newer agents maybe out there?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely. So the market conditions here in Houston have always, since I started, 18 years ago, it has always been a struggle. We haven't had the greatest market when it comes to insurance, and just even things that farmers will have the appetite for. So just that has always been an issue for me. But what I've always told my staff is, let's just do what the company wants us to do. If they want auto today, then there's 6 million people here in Houston. So I'm sure we can find an auto or two to sell,
Hmm.
if they want life insurance, hey, everyone that's breathing needs some life insurance, and we can sell just about any type of life insurance, regardless of their conditions. And so we do life insurance. And so we focus on what we can focus and not stay in the mentality of, oh, I don't want to do, oh, it's because this, it's because farmers doesn't want to do this, farmers doesn't want to do that. Forget about that. You do what you need to do to continue the business going and to help your clients. You cannot stay focused on the negative. So that's one thing. I think the second thing is I've always surrounded myself by very, very good agents that are positive, that are getting it done, that are looking for ways to get it done and not looking for more excuses to make.
Hmm.
And I really like that. And I think I'm like that myself. I don't like to be making excuses all the time. Like, you know what? I'm here. I'm going to take advantage of today. I like to have myself a little reminder on my computer, and I put it on my staff's computer. You know, you can always be busy, but being busy does not mean that you're being productive. So, are you
Oh
being
wow,
busy or are you being productive? And so I put that on
that's a good
every
one.
single computer because I can push papers around all day, and maybe I'm trying to make a call, and I'm going through this, when you know what, just pick up that phone and start dialing. Just get it done. Because one thing is to be busy. Yeah, you can be busy. There's a lot of important things, but were you the most productive today? Because little by little, I mean, I've been busy and productive all year. And you know what? We're in third quarter almost,
Yep.
I mean, 9 months already went by, and just like that, so we have to take advantage of every single day in the right way. So
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that as a new agent, I feel like a lot of new agents, they like to they like to recreate the wheel a lot. I've seen so many where they're like recreating flyers, brochures, emails, when there's already a lot of that material out there. Even with social media content, and just kind of learning from you. Sometimes if you're not, good enough where you're getting it done quickly and getting it kind of out of the way, hey, it's easy to just kind of go in there and say, oh, I get this idea from Jan. Let me just implement it, and real quick, boom. I don't have to spend 4 hours brainstorming while I could have sold, I don't know, 3 policies in the same amount of time. Because that's really the end game, right? Is we have to be productive. So I think that's really, some of the main things. And then, of course, staffing has always been an issue. Everyone knows that. But it's going to be an ongoing issue. So you can choose to complain about it, or you can just continue to find that great, you know, golden egg that's going to come up in the basket. And so you just continue to do it until you get your team, and you have a fabulous team, and you just keep rolling with them.
Yeah.
So,
No, yeah, great points there, Daniela. I love it. I think we're so lucky to have so many products. So there's got to be something in your market that fits the appetite. So why worry about the stuff you can't write and spend energy there? It's like there's so many other products we have that let's
mm-hmm,
focus on those. And yeah, I love the idea of just engaging and making relationship with better agents and learning from them, like your checklist, how you're so gracious enough to share that during the conference. Those things are available. And why spend so much energy? And yeah, the being busy and being productive is so different, and understanding the difference, I think that was a great insight, and I think that's going to help out a lot of people, because just because you're busy doesn't mean you really moved your business along that day. So what you're spending your time on, what type of activities that really make a difference in your results, I think that's great too. And then staffing, what would you say your staffing, like your leadership style is? Like what kind of boss are you?
Uh, well, I mean, I think I've actually over the years kind of like relaxed a little bit, in a sense, because I used to be very strict. But I feel like and I think I was very strict because we had to get it done. And even today, we still have to get it done.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, I, I think I expected, I was very, and no, actually, I'm going to take it back. I'm still very much the type that I like people to be reliable. They have to be here on time. That for me is big. But I think before in the beginning, if someone was late 2 minutes, I'm
Mhm.
already like, whoa, why are you late 2 minutes? What's going on? And right now I'm like, okay, well, it's just 2 minutes, things happen. It's not a big deal. If it's not happening like on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So I and I think with my systems, I have my checklist. So I have the expectation already out there. So I don't have to, physically be going and getting onto my staff every day, like, oh, you have to do this and you have to do that. You have to. No, they already know. They have their job description. I give them their checklist. If I see that someone is not getting their dailies done, what I expect for them to achieve in that day, then if I see it one day, I see it 2 days, then that third day, they're going to have a conversation with me like, hey, what's going on? Why are you not finishing? How can I help you to turn this around? So more as a leader, as a coach,
Hmm.
rather than a boss, like,
Hmm.
what are you doing? More so, how can I help you to get it to where
Mm.
to what you were doing before? What's changed? Are you going through something? Is it something personal? Is it something here in the office? So kind of getting to know my staff, I think that's important. Just taking the time to sit down with them and see, okay, well, how can we make things better? And I think that that's been a big thing, a big kind of a game changer with my staff and retaining them and things like that. Um, so I think that's the biggest thing, is just that,
Yeah.
giving them a structure and then getting to know them.
Yeah, I love that line. How can I help you? If they're struggling, and it's not like, oh, what coming down on them, like, or being disciplining them. It's more like, how can I help you? I think that style, to me, I have found that that works better, and people respond better to that type of leadership style. And then the checklist. I mean, I was in your presentation, and I thought it was so great. But even though I kind of know, but I want to ask you more questions. But for the audience who haven't heard about it, let's talk about that, because I think that's going to
Mhm.
really help us too.
So, yeah, I like to say I have a checklist for a checklist because I'm very organized. Even, I mean, you will see my desk. My desk will always look kind of in this fashion. I don't like to have stacks of papers, and I don't go home with 100 emails in my inbox. I go home with at most five, and I know why I'm holding them. So I'm very structured and I'm very organized. I have the main one that well, actually, all three we use on a daily basis, but the main one is the daily checklist, which is, it's very simple. You saw it on my screen. It wasn't any rocket science
Mhm.
or of any fashion whatsoever. It's just letting your staff know, what do you expect them to do today? So my daily checklist is kind of divided into two portions: the morning and the afternoon portion. So the morning is going to be mostly geared of service, and then service and cross selling, service
Mhm.
and cross selling. So every single alert we call, we're going to cross sell. If someone got on the phone, we got to cross sell. If someone, if we needed to add a car or whatever, we have to cross sell. Even if they send us in a request to cancel, we'll call them, confirm the request to cancel, and then we cross sell. So only because they're canceling that auto policy doesn't mean that they don't want to be with you on the home, or they
Mhm.
don't want to have that life policy with you.
Mhm.
Only because they are on a notice of cancellation for an auto, it doesn't mean that they don't have the money to pay for life insurance. Lord knows. I mean, actually, just a couple of months ago, one of my, uh, I had to change my bank account, forgot to update it on my auto policy. And my staff told me, Daniela, you're on notice of cancellation. I'm like, what? What's going on? So that's what I always tell my staff. Don't assume every single phone call is an opportunity. So that's the first thing. And so that's the first part in the morning. So I want them to get through all of the alerts every day. So really, they don't have that many alerts. Once you're caught up with the
Mhm.
alerts, it's only the first when you start working them to where you're working them 2 weeks to 3 weeks ahead in time, that you're not just working off the critical alerts, but working on your pendings. And then everyone's task really is reduced to maybe one, two, and on a busy day, maybe three alerts a day
That's not bad.
per person. Yeah,
That
it's nothing.
that lets them be able to spend more time on them and cross sell too. But how do
Yes.
you distribute that?
So I have, so this is how I do it. I run a report of all of my accounts and I figure out how many accounts there actually is, right?
Hmm.
And then from there, I divide them up evenly between the amounts of service people that I have on them,
Okay.
right? So if I have 2,500 accounts to say,
Hmm.
just a number, 2,500 accounts and I have five people, then I'll do 500, 500, 500. And so what I'll do is I'll sort it by the alphabet, by the last name, and then I'll sort it. But I have to see how many accounts because I have I have a lot of people in the M and the R and the S,
Hmm.
but I don't have a lot of people in the Z, X, Y, Z. So
Yeah.
I don't want to have someone with 50 alerts and another person with three alerts. So I break it up by account and then I give it to them based on the alphabet. So they go in, they get their checklist, and they know, like for example, I'm looking at Louis. Louis, he works all of the alerts, alphabet A through D. So
Okay.
he walks in every day, he prints his checklist, he goes into the alerts, and every single alert that is A through D, he works it.
Gotcha.
But since he works it every day, some days he doesn't even have any alerts. So he
Hmm.
just goes straight into, all right, let's start cross selling.
Hmm.
Let's get on a list, let's start cross selling, or we'll get onto the renewals to FFRs and we'll do the renewal alerts and we'll start doing the FFRs. And that's really how we work it. And so, really, they know what is expected. They know that they have to get through the alerts. They know that they have to do. I like them to do 10 quotes a day,
Hmm.
unless they had sales that day. If they had sales can take a little bit of time. You're
Hmm.
talking to the client over the phone. And so, if they didn't finish the 10 quotes, but they sold something, one, two, or three policies, whatever it is, then I'm like, okay, it makes sense. The day
Hmm.
made sense. And they were
Yeah.
very productive
But if you have
because
no sales and no quotes,
then
that doesn't make
that's when
sense.
then that's when I go back to them like, hey, tell me what's going on in your day. What happened. How can I help you to kind of get back into, instead of being on this roller coaster where we're just kind of on this even nice slope where we're trending up. What do we need to do?
And on the renewal list, so you guys actively call every single one and try to do FFRs?
Yes, I really love my renewals because it's the best opportunity to cross sell.
Hmm.
And so I do two things on renewal. One is I really don't get into the rates unless it's a must, but it's
Hmm.
kind of at the very end of the checklist. Go back, and if there's still a
That's right.
question about rates, then
Hmm.
we go back. But usually, I mean, we really go back with coverage because, the way that I explain it to the customer is I can save you, 10, 20, $30 if you want. But, when you're sitting on your front neighbor's sidewalk, sitting there on the sidewalk, looking at your house burning to the ground, thinking, is it all going to be covered or not? I can guarantee you that the 10 and 20 and $30 were not going to matter to you. They're just not going to matter. And the reason I know that it's because I've been there. I've been sitting in that sidewalk with one of my clients. He had a fire and he called me. So I waited there with him and his wife and his kids. Luckily, no one was injured. And he's like, am I covered? I'm like, of course, yes, you're covered. And he's like, well, but what about all the property? I said, look, the worst thing about this is that I cannot give you your pictures back
Hmm.
because I can't
Like
do
everyone's
anything
gone.
about that. I said, but everything else, we're done. And so he had his check. He was very grateful that he was able to rebuild his home. And he told me, he's like, you're right. He goes, when you have the proper coverage and you're able to get, the material stuff back, really the main things is that, the memories,
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
memories that you had in that home, the pictures that you really can't get back. And so I talked to them about that. I talked to them about, we can always, do this or decrease the coverage, but that's not something that I would recommend or do. So we do the FFRs. And again, I have a checklist for the FFR. So my expectation is not to be your um, insurance agent, but to be your insurance portfolio manager,
I like
where
that.
we carry all of your insurance policies. It's like, you don't want to have to go to 10 different lawyers or 10 different primary doctors. You have your doctor and they're going to take care of everything. And if that doctor can't do it, then they're going to say, hey, I'm going to send you here. So that's how I want to do it with my clients. They have to understand, like, I'm going to take care of you. And when there's a hurricane, because we get hurricanes a lot here in Houston, we've
Mm-hmm.
been fortunate this year. I'm going to knock on wood. So we get hurricanes or you're flooded. We get floods all the time. You don't want to call 7 different places and then on top of it be on hold with a 1-800 number trying to get in touch with someone when you can call me and say, hey, this happened to my home, this happened on my autos or this many autos. The last one we had with Hurricane Harvey, I mean, there was some places that were 20, 30 feet deep in water. And so I
Wow.
had complete households, like autos, homes, everything completely destroyed. And so they're able just to call one place and get taken care of all in the one place. And if they have any questions, anything, they know where to call and they know where to find me, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so once I explain myself to them and what I want to accomplish, I think that they appreciate it too.
Absolutely.
Um,
I bet.
they really do appreciate it, and they're like, you're right, I don't want to have 3 different agents. I want to just have everything with you. So now, am I going to get them every single time? Am I going to win that quote, that policy every single time? Maybe not. But you know what? It becomes an opportunity that if I don't do it today, I can guarantee you it's going to happen in the next 6 months or in the next 6 months or in the next 6 months, because I know that my agency cares a lot more than the other agency, you
Yeah,
know?
and I think it all leads with starting with coverage. Just talking about the coverage, going in detail, talking about what can happen if you don't have the right coverage, and then talking about the price at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that price will seem smaller if the value of the coverage
It's bigger.
is bigger.
And in fact, once we discuss the coverage, really they're not really, pinching for pennies and dimes anymore.
Mhm.
Because I mean, who cares if you're saving a penny when you're getting thousands in coverage, because that's really
Hundreds of
what we're
thousands.
doing.
Yeah.
You're just buying money. You're using pennies to buy thousands of dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So it's a good investment. It's a good investment. And these are your biggest investments. Your home is a big investment. It's one of your biggest assets. Your auto is one of your biggest assets. Your family is your biggest assets, hence why we need to protect you and them. And so I talked to them about that, your assets. And so I think that that's the biggest thing. And so that's really my conversation when we were having the FFRs. And so I already have some preliminary quotes where, we do, of course, have to verify the information, make sure everything's correct. But we have some of the preliminary stuff already ready. And we're already talking to them and just make it easy for them. Because honestly, I don't like going to the doctor and staying there 3 hours. I don't
Hmm.
like going to my attorney and staying there 3 hours. I don't like going to the county clerk's office and staying there 3 hours. And I can guarantee that no one enjoys staying in our office 3 hours. So we try to condense it to the least possible and most enjoyable and knowledgeable time that you can have, and probably try to do it in under an hour, if we can. So that's really what we do in the FFRs. And again, we stay on track with everyone. It doesn't matter if they had no increase or decrease or an increase. It doesn't matter. It's just even the more opportunities to discover how we can make this one policy insured into my, a full portfolio client.
Hmm.
And so I don't like to call my clients customers. I feel like customers are just always they're always shopping around. My clients are more their clients. They understand the value, they understand what they have, when it comes to insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, subtle difference there, but there is a difference. But yeah, when you're going over those coverages, wow, I could see why you're a great salesperson. I was about to
So
ask if I could buy a policy from you right now. Maybe I should get more coverage.
thank you. Yeah, you should. You should. I can always sell. I can't sell you auto and home because you're in California, but I can sell you life insurance next time I'm over there.
Oh yeah, no. The way, the passion, the way you talk about it, I could see. Yeah, where that sales is something that comes natural to you, and yeah, the way you talk about the coverage is so important. And I just want to just reemphasize. I think some of us just get too much into the price first, or present the price too early, and have a price-driven conversation, which is going to be a tough one for us to compete in. So now the producers, do they have a different checklist?
Um, so right now I'm kind of in transition, because I feel like I have, enough people. And actually, not really, because I do want to have at least 10 people in each office. I feel that that's what I need, to break it up into departments where someone is strictly doing service and someone is strictly just doing sales. And the reason for that is because I really feel like I need to have at least four people on service because of my PIF amount.
Yeah,
So
least.
but yeah, at least 4 to 5. And then I need to have, I would want to have at least 4 producers to 5 producers. And then, of course, I do have, right now, a commercial specialist. I'm sorry. And then, a life specialist. And so, and then, of course, I need to have an office manager because I'm like running back and forth between. So every other day I'm in one or the other office.
How far apart do
Uh,
they?
so they're both in Houston, but
Okay.
Houston's pretty big,
Yeah.
and so I'm still traveling about 45 to an hour,
Oh
45
wow.
minutes to an hour. Yeah, so they're kind of on very opposite ends. Um, it's okay, it's fun. It's just I can't, presently be there in the offices. So I have the both, each have their office managers that help me out with that, and that's been phenomenal. That's been real great. But before that, so before I kind of get to the level of staff members that I want to have to be able to sustain the work, I've kind of had everyone do a little bit of everything. And it
Mhm.
works out good in a sense, just because if I have a staff member that is no longer with me, everyone else knows how to do everything else.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I lost this person in service and now, this other person doesn't know how to do that,
Yeah.
or they don't know how to, split a household, split someone from a household or whatever. And you're having to train. So everyone kind of knows a little bit of everything. But my end game, really, like I said, and I'm always transitioning. I don't ever sit still, Dan. I'm all next year, I'm going to be doing something else. Watch.
Always
But
improving is what you're doing.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I just, it's a changing market, it's a changing world. We're
Hmm.
constantly changing, we're growing, we're knowing new things, so we got to stay, we're going to stay up with the times. So yeah, so that's why, hence my end of the year goal is to have 20, so that I can start out with the departments starting out in January. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that I can get the right people in place.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt. Once you put your mind into it, you will. Um, so yeah, let's talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the acquisition. And tell us the story. I mean, signing
Yeah.
that contract. as a career agent, you were hurt, but that didn't stop you. But is it similar or is it different or
Well,
how
I
is
can
that?
tell you that it's always a little scary. I mean, it is always a little scary taking on this whole new challenge. And, just even though it's the same industry, still, it's just a lot more, on the plate. So it's always a little scary, and I know it, so it did take me, maybe about a year and a half to maybe get that approved. Now it was a large agency, so we're talking about 7,000 PIF that I acquired. And
Wow.
so, and I already had, around the same around the
Mm-hmm.
same amount of PIF, or more. And so, um, it was a process. It was a process. So I know that I was one of the first few in the country that did it. There was maybe,
You mean
I mean,
acquisition that size?
yeah, acquisition that's actually, I was talking about just internal acquisitions, but
Oh,
acquisitions
okay,
that
yeah.
size,
Acquisition still was
probably,
new back then.
yeah, it was still kind of
Mhm.
new. Right now it's a little bit, kind of more out there, more available. Um, and so, yeah, so it took about a year and a half, and it was difficult. And I think the main thing is that, um, it's just, it's hard to find, having supporters, you know, because I feel like misery always loves company. That's why I try to stay away from negative people. I like to be with positive energies, that are going to build you up. And people that are happy, that are positive, and that are getting it done, they're always going to build themselves up. I have never ever, heard a word from your mouth to tell me something to, like, don't do it, Daniela. But on the contrary, you're always building me and all of the other agents up, because you're happy, you're positive, and you're getting it done. And so, it's hard to find those people. So I know that it's, I would hear it from different friends, like, hey, yeah, why are you really going to do this? I don't know. And I like to listen to everyone. I love to listen to every single opinion. And I think I've grown a lot because I like to listen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end, you always have to listen to your heart and do what's best for you, and what you think is best, for you and for your family and for your staff. Um, I feel lucky that I'm able to have a lot of staff and that I'm able to help them. And, we have a great time. We work a lot, but I'm able to help them. And so that's I think a big thing, because it's the fear in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've talked to other agents and it's like, oh my God, how'd you do it? And I want to do it. I'm like, do it. You should do it. At least try it out. What's the worst that can happen? And I know that in the back of our minds, we're probably thinking, well, maybe our family or friends are going to laugh at us if we fail. We kind of have that little thing. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to move on. And everything passes. So you just kind of let it go. And so, I remember, I would stay awake at night, sometimes thinking about it, like, even at some points doubting myself, like, wow, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. I had, it was difficult with the company to even get it approved. So I'm like, the company, it's kind of hard, it's not, it just wasn't handed to me in a golden platter per
Yeah,
se.
well,
It
you're
wasn't
making a
that easy.
huge financial
So
commitment too.
yes, yes. So it wasn't handed
Must
like,
have been.
oh, hey, here you go. There you go. Be happy.
Yeah, it's not free.
It's everything. It entails exactly. It wasn't free. So, so it entailed a lot of things. So I would be awake at night. But, I remember, when I finally did the closing of it and everything, and I came in the next day, I felt like 2010, day one, when I started the first agency. Like, I was so pumped. I was so ready to do it. And I get here every day and I'm so excited. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad that I didn't let, anyone or myself let let me or anyone get in the middle of anything. Because it is hard. It's tough decisions, it's tough decisions. And I feel like just being a woman, is a big thing, because I feel like we tend to be more worriers, about everything. And so, and it's probably true, we are worriers. But I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad every single day. I'm glad, uh, at the end of the day, all of my family and my friends and my staff and the company, once I kind of got everything in place, I think everyone has seen that, this is great. This is a great deal, for everyone. And so I'm very happy about it. And so I would encourage, I know some people have called me about internal acquisitions, and they're like, hey, how are you doing it? Yeah, it's complicated, I will say, as far as the system issues and the policy transferring and getting everything where it needs to be and kind of lined up. It's going to be anywhere from probably about 8 months to a year to kind of get everything, all your ducks in a row. And that's kind of normal and standard. But it's okay. Like I've kind of just stopped letting go of a lot of the system issues and just said, you know what, let's just control what we can control, like always. Let's stop being busy and start being productive, and go back to our basics. Let's just be productive and worry about that today. And we'll let the system issues resolve themselves when they need to. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and it will. But yeah, I'm just really happy for you, Daniela, because I could just sense the joy of, it being done. And I just feel like there's so much to being able to accomplish hard things. That brings joy,
Yeah.
so if anyone's going through something that's difficult, then I think it's excitement around the corner. So, yeah, that's a great story of going through something that was scary. What about what would you say when people say like, well, you already had 7,000 policies, like shouldn't you already be happy? Like, why put yourself in stress to push yourself to for more? Like, that viewpoint. And I do believe also when it comes to like family and friends, sometimes it's coming from a good place where they're actually worried about you because they're not risk takers. So
It
they
is absolutely that. It's absolutely that. I agree with you 100%. And I know that that's what it is, that, they want us to be happy,
Mhm.
and that's really the main thing. So I agree with that statement that you're saying. And even too, from the company standpoint, I know that it was probably the first internal acquisition that big, and that we were doing it in the way that they wanted it to be done, like two different locations and different agent codes. There was some internal acquisitions where they were all kind of merged into one. They had that, so I do know of a couple of those. This one was just kind of a new thing. And so even company people, and it's because I've been knowing them for a really long time.
Mhm.
I've been knowing, I mean, I've been working with the company for 18 years.
Mhm.
So, some of these people, they've been knowing me since I was 20 or 19.
Yeah.
And so they've just kind of seen me grow up with them. So I can see that. I mean, I know it's that. In fact, I know that it's that they care, and that it's a big cliff to jump off, you know? So,
Yeah, but yeah, you did it, and I'm just so happy that I could see that you're excited and it's working out for you. So, great story of just staying positive and back to like you said, your basics. Control what you can. The system issues, those are things that we know it has to be. It's just a matter of time. It's going to be worked out on. So,
yeah.
yeah, let's talk about now that you're here. What's your strategy when it comes to hiring fast? Because I'm kind of in the same position, maybe because we both were at the conference and Vlad got us really excited about the future and motivated.
Really, yes, he did. So, and I'm constantly learning as far as my recruiting. I think that with Vlad, that was a great sort of, the way that he does the recruiting. I've already been working with Ideal Trades, and I really, really like it. I have Ideal Trades and ZipRecruiter. I actually, in the other office, it's kind of Um, it's kind of like its own building and it's on a corner lot. So I
Hmm.
actually just did like a really big now hiring sign and I have it outside on the fence. And
Hmm.
I get a lot of calls from that,
Okay.
just from the now
Wow.
hiring and the phone number. And we get people that call in like, hey, I saw the sign. Can I send in my resume? I will actually get maybe around, anywhere 3 to 5 resumes a day.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's people that are in that same general area, which is
Hmm.
good because they're not having to do a huge commute. They're driving by there for a reason.
Hmm.
So I do that, I do social media. Sometimes where I just post something on my Facebook is really my biggest following. I maybe have 2,500 friends. And so I'll just post something like, hey, now hiring, if you know of someone, please have them send the resume. And so I'll get resumes that way as well. Um, but then anyone that I get, I really do put them through the ideal trades. And I've been doing that for a while because since I saw it, I really saw the value in it as well. So I'm doing the ideal trades. Um, and I'm just trying to interview. In fact, I have an interview around 4 o'clock my time right now, and I have interviews every day. Every day, I'm just consistently having interviews because honestly, I'm to the point that if I have 5 producers and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, I'm
Hmm.
not going to lose money. I'm really
Hmm.
not going to lose money.
Thanks to the
Now, if
system,
you're
though.
going to, yes, and
Hmm.
yes, so several things, but if they're doing what they're supposed to do, you shouldn't be scared.
Hmm.
The scary part is hiring 5 people and then you don't train them, you don't sit down with them, you're not, they're not doing what they're supposed to do and then they become where they're just it's an expense, it's another
Hmm.
expense. And so that expense, I mean, you have to figure out how long are you going to have this expense for. Is it going to be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? What are you going to do? But usually, like, for me, it's within 60 days. You have to prove to me, like, hey, this is the job. You have a taste of it. You have a feel. Is it something that you like and you're willing to do and you're going to enjoy it? Because I want them to, at least come in and be happy doing what they're doing, getting on the phone or whatever they're going to be doing. And so, um, and yeah, I mean, really, usually even in the first 30 days, I have a really good idea of, hey, this is something that I'm going to do and I like, or no, it's probably not for me. And so we'll figure it out. But that's how I do it for the staffing. So I'm really not scared. I mean, I want to end up with 20, but if I end up with 30 by the end of the year, that would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. And for the newbies, I know that you're thinking about like, okay, well, yeah, you already have the PIF, you have the renewals coming in or whatever. I definitely understand you. Then I would say if you're in the capacity to train someone properly, if you yourself can already, hit 50,000 in premium and you're getting it done and you feel that you have the capacity to make someone else or not, you know, make someone else get to that level, then you're ready to hire. And if you don't have the funds, then, look out to the credit union, look out, for whatever you need to do. But I can guarantee you that if you're doing 50,000 and you train someone else to do 50,000, and then you hire someone else the next one and you train them to do 50,000, guess what? That could be kind of the opportunity when you can step back a little, where you don't have to do the 50,000 anymore and not be doing sales all the time. Maybe you can tone it down to where you're doing 25,000 until the next month when you hire another person and you can get them to do 50,000. And then you can maybe completely take yourself out of that role and become more of a business owner and not just always selling policies and being a salesperson. And so that's kind of the way. It's a big cliff. All right. It is also a big cliff, but you have to be confident and you have to be able to do it first. And so that's one thing that I know that I've always known how to do. I always know how to do sales. I know how to do sales. I know how to talk to clients. I love it. It's my passion. I can train people to do it all day long because I love to do it myself. And so I don't have any expectations for my staff that I can't do. And they know that. They've seen it from me. And so that's what I'm thinking, or that's what my advice is. And I think that that's key because I feel like a lot of the new agents um, are probably not to that level yet themselves,
Mm,
you know, because
yeah.
I've met some and they're like, well, I'm only doing 10,000 or 15,000 a month, you know, or 20,000 or
You're just gonna train
25,000.
somebody to be able to just do that. You
Mm-hmm.
can't.
Or you need to train yourself too as an
Hmm.
agent first to get it done, to know
Hmm.
how to get it done,
Yeah.
so that you can pass it along.
Can't
And
teach what you don't know how to do.
exactly. And so that you can be a coach, because
Hmm.
otherwise, then you're just telling people to do something when you don't really know how to do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, great stuff, Daniela. I think you broke it down really simply too. But I think it's almost a waste if you can do 50,000 if you don't hire somebody, because just by somebody sitting next to you, they could still learn.
Oh,
You,
yeah.
you know, and actually when you train somebody how to do it, it actually makes you better too.
Yes.
You're like, okay, that's how you're like re-emphasizing kind of what you know subconsciously, but you're actually saying it.
Saying it.
Yeah, it makes you a better at your craft too. But if you're doing 50,000 and don't have somebody at least shadowing you, it's almost a waste of you having that type of production. If you have a producer that's doing that much and don't have anybody learning from that producer, it's almost a
Mm-hmm.
waste too, because just by sitting next to somebody 8 hours a day and seeing somebody do that makes it so much possible for the next person to be able to do it, because they see somebody right in front of them do it, and you just keep that going and going and going, and one day you become a business owner.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Man, great stuff right there, Danielle. I think that's going to help out a lot of people.
awesome. Well, I hope I do. I'm always available. Agents email me all the time. I always give out my email, dsoto@farmersagent.com. So if anybody has any questions, you guys can always reach out to me. I love to kind of just help out, anyone that I can.
Great, thank you so much, Daniela. But yeah, I really want to just say, well, you have confidence. You have a lot of confidence. So that's something that. But you also, I almost surprised with your humility too, because at the conference you're probably the biggest book of business, and you're just like a normal agent, like talking to everybody, and just it's just you don't have that like I guess I guess ego. You're just so humble when it comes to just like how you interact with people. Have you always had that, or you had to balance that, or what do you say? Probably the confidence is
I I
it's
don't
natural,
know.
right?
I mean, I think I'm confident in what I say because I'm so passionate about it. As far as, having a big ego, I've never been like that. I have friends from when I was 3 and 4 years old, and new friends, and I like to meet, all sorts of people. And I think that there's something to learn from everyone. And I don't necessarily think that a dollar is going to make someone better or less than anyone. It's never been my mentality. And so I don't know. I really enjoyed the conference, and I learned a lot from a lot of people. And not just you guys that were presenting, Vlad and you, and we had Richard, which is, dear friend of mine. I love to hear him speak, and all of the speakers, Mariah, all of them. And so I learned a lot from you guys, but then I also learned a lot from just other agents,
Hmm.
that I was sitting next to, in the conference, or at lunch, or as I was passing by, in the booths, the vendors or whatever. So I always seem to pick up something from someone. And that's really how I do it. I can tell you that, everything that I do, it's been all these little tidbits that I've picked up from all of the agents that I've known in my life. So I don't really spend a whole lot of time recreating the wheel. I'm just like, oh, I like that. Let me put that in place. And we roll with it.
Yeah. No, yeah, I love that attitude, and that's how I try to be too. I do agree with you. Like, there's always something to learn from somebody. no matter who it is, you know. So always going into engaging with people and having an interest in like, oh, what do you do and things like that. But that's something that maybe explains why you are where you are, you know, where you're just always curious and learning, and then also implementing and actually taking, like you said, you know, once you have your mind into something, you have to take the action too, not just learning, but
Exactly.
putting things into action. So yeah, Daniela, I mean, I really think we did. I want to give myself a little credit, but for having you here. But I think you did an awesome job of just
Thank you.
so many things that we went over that's going to help out a lot of agents. Constantly learning and constantly having a positive attitude and just having belief in yourself. And yeah, sometimes business could be scary. You know, it's not sometimes about how much money you have, but how much courage you have. And I think, you know, it's. I just want to acknowledge you for being able to start where you were and then to be who you are today. Is just an incredible journey because you've seen a lot of people um, not make it. You know, but not only have you made it, but you made it at such a highest level. But any last words that you want to share that maybe I didn't lead you to the right direction?
No, I think we covered quite a bit in this time. I really appreciate you for having me over. I think I'm getting better at doing the whole video situation. So hopefully I am able to help, other agents. And that's it. I mean, I'm so glad and I'm so honored and humble, really, humbled just to be here. So I appreciate it.
No, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, the video thing, yeah, just like anything else you do.
Practice.
Yeah, practice and the confidence. So you really killed it on this episode. So thanks again, Daniela. I'm so happy to get to know you a little better now. And then at different conferences and things, we'll run into each other. And yeah, I'm gonna be witnessing you, you know, keep growing your business and you know, supporting you in any way I can. So let me know if you need anything, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. And likewise, have a good day.